Good afternoon, everyone. It's David Schlotthauer here in the Home Weather Office for February the 7th, 2024 on this fantastic Wednesday. In today's detailed update, we're keeping an eye on some model trends as another nor'easter is possible in the making for early to middle of next week for the extreme northeastern portion of the United States, maybe for maybe some more Midwest snow as well. So we'll be breaking down all those details. But before I do get started, I do apologize if I haven't been active on YouTube over the last few days. On Sunday, we had some very intense winds here, gusting over 75 miles an hour, enough to take down our fence, enough to knock out our power off and on. So I just did not feel comfortable doing any uploads that day. And then on Monday, I had work, and then it just was not a good day. And then yesterday, we just got the heating and air conditioning was fully installed. So there was just a lot of noise, a lot of banging around. So just a lot of distractions going on. But now that that is all behind us, we are now going to be uploading as often and frequently as I can possible. So I do apologize about the technical difficulties and my brief hiatus disappearance over the last few days. So now with that being said, let's talk about our next winter storm that you all are probably wondering about for the Northeast, right? So looking at the latest European model, this is for Saturday afternoon, February the 10th, 2024, and we do have a little bit of snow focusing across the Intermountain West here, such as Arizona. If you're in New Mexico, if you're in Colorado, if you're in Utah, you're getting a little bit of snow. But also for the deep south, you have a chance of rain as well for this weekend. So maybe a bit of a soggy one for Louisiana, for Mississippi, if you're in Alabama, Georgia, if you're in, say, Tennessee. Some moderate to heavy rainfall could lead to more flood concerns. Yeah, you've had a good modest amount of rainfall so far this winter season. Some areas are still behind quite a bit, but you're making that up gradually, which is nice to see, right? But guess what? Look at this system right here. This is going to be the instigator going forward into early next week. You can see here on the European model, this is for the 11th. You can see the snow here and then the rain down here to the south. This is a more dynamic system that typically starts to show up here for the deep south under this kind of flow type pattern. We have a trough that is digging down here. And so on the left exit region, you get that surface flow that tries to develop. But look at this. Look what the European model is beginning to indicate. More snow maybe for Indiana, also for Ohio. But guess what? This is going to be a nor'easter potentially. Yeah, I said that right. Maybe a nor'easter with the snow falling to the north. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty in the models. This just recently popped up over the last couple of model runs from both the Euro, the GFS, and the Canadian models. So until we get more consistency, we'll have a better idea who is going to actually get hit with more heavy snow, some strong winds, that sort of thing. But this is a pretty deep surface low. 985 millibars off the northeast there. Look, it gets down to 976 potentially by Tuesday morning, February the 13th, right? So there's a snow across the northeast, maybe some lake effect snow behind that. Now let's take a look at the GFS model, the American model that is. So each model has their different way of extrapolating the data and kind of simulating it, right? So the GFS model indicates a more intense snow band that could set up over northern Texas, also for northwestern Oklahoma into southern Kansas. This could be more substantial, maybe 6 to 12 inches or so out of that little piece of snow there that falls. And then, of course, for the deep south, you have a pretty good shot at seeing some moderate to heavy rainfall. That's pretty well modeled at this point in the global numerical field, right? But going forward here, look at what the GFS wants to show, right? The snow, this low is going to kind of do something more like this. So now, say instead of southern Indiana getting the snow on the Euro, looks like the GFS favors central and northern Indiana with some light to moderate snowfall. And then maybe for northern Ohio, get a little bit of snow. But look at this. Once this surface low gets going off the eastern seaboard, the northeast coast, look at this. Moderate to heavy snowfall is anticipated over the extreme northeast. This is for Tuesday for next week. On the Euro, we can see timing-wise pretty similar, maybe off by about 12 to 15 hours. But does a pretty good job at that, right? So it looks like Tuesday is going to be kind of a day to really watch for maybe some blizzard conditions, maybe some strong winds out of that system. And then look how low that gets. That gets down to 960 millibars potentially on the GFS. That's pretty low, okay? And you bet you're going to have strong winds coming in out of the northeasterly direction. Hence is why it's called the nor'easter, right? And then that moves out, and then everyone starts to dry out. But there's one more model that we want to show you all to prove you that this could end up happening. Not just the Euro, but the GFS, but now looking at the Canadian model. Going forward, you can see not as intense or bullish for the Midwest for snowfall at first. Rainfall for the Deep South seems also a little bit modest than what the Euro is showing. We can see the difference here. More rain for the Deep South. The GFS indicates the same thing. When you look at the Canadian, pretty much very similar to what the GFS is showing, only that the Canadian is showing less snow to begin with, but still quite a bit of snow, maybe for Illinois, for northern Indiana, right? We'll see if the European model continues to correct towards the GFS and the Canadian models. But this is very concerning. Watch what happens here. This low gets very deep. By Tuesday morning, by Tuesday afternoon, look at this, especially for Maine. Let me zoom in here so you all can see this much better. Look at that dark blue. That is an indication that you could see some very intense snowfall rates. A 952 millibar system, you hope that doesn't happen because there would be some power outages and some blizzard conditions over Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. If you're in, say, Massachusetts, definitely a big snowmageddon storm if this actually ends up panning out, okay? But then that moves out by Thursday. But one thing in mind, timing-wise, very similar. Looks like Tuesday on all of the three models. So there is some signal that this could actually end up happening. Now, snowfall totals look like this on the European model. This is through the middle to the end of next week. We can see, again, for the Northeast with the Euro, showing anywhere between 6 to 12 inches of snowfall. Really a conservative model compared to with what you're about to see. A little bit of snow, though, for the Midwest, so something that we'll have to monitor in future model runs. Maybe as much as 3 to 6 inches. Maybe some areas there, maybe as much as 8 to 12 inches for the Midwest. Take note, though, the Rockies going to get more additional snow because more winter storms are coming. So, therefore, maybe another foot or two for the higher elevations. For the valleys, maybe 6 to 10 inches there. So now looking at that's a Euro, this is the GFS model, much more crazier on the snowfall totals. Look at this for the Northeast. Yeah, I'm going to focus in on this really quickly. Snowfall totals anywhere between 1 to maybe 2 feet over New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. And even Massachusetts there could get maybe a foot or two of snowfall if this actually pans out. Okay, this is just a forecast. This is kind of a model guidance of what might end up happening. This has only been in the last few or couple of model runs. If we actually look at yesterday's model run, last night's actually, that is, you can see quite a bit of snow still there. And then the 0Z run from last night or yesterday, not showing hardly anything. So again, it really is going to depend here on where this actually sets up. The 18Z model run is coming out from the GFS right now. If that renders quick enough, we'll bring it up towards the end of the video, but I don't think it's going to be done rendering in time. But either way you put it, quite a bit of snowfall is possible now for the Northeast for the middle or early part of next week. The Canadian model, much more crazier. I mean, wow. All I gotta say is if this comes to pass, this could be very significant, possibly 1 to 3 feet of snowfall up across northern New York state, as well as New Hampshire, Vermont. If you're in Maine, whoa, that is a lot of snowfall accumulation in the span of about a few days here. And just for reference, you can see if we go back in time no snow now, and look at this. This could really accumulate based on what the snowfall is looking like. Winds as well could be a very big deal with this. Again, it depends on where that surface low sets up. Of course, Cape Cod and along the coast of Maine typically is favored for the strongest winds, and if you get some strong winds over, say, Nova Scotia there, you can see sustained anywhere between 25 to 40 miles an hour. We look at the GFS really quickly with the winds. You can see the 12Z run. Let's kind of move that forward. Let's go forward. There it is, right there. Very strong winds over Cape Cod, potentially 50 to 70 miles an hour. And if we look at the Euro model, the 12Z output, also similar amounts of winds, well, much lighter here on the Euro, but still quite strong nevertheless. Now, while I have not talked about much of the West at all in this video, that's because, again, things are settling down finally, but my hearts are going out to a lot of you in Southern California dealing with catastrophic flooding, lots of landslides, fatalities out of this weekend's storm system. Just absolutely devastated a lot of people. In fact, many people are still without power in the Sacramento Valley because of downed trees. A lot of like a few trees came down on cars, on people's homes. I mean, wow. I mean, you don't see that very often in California, getting gusts in excess of 60 to 75 miles an hour. And it did pan out like what models thought. And I thought maybe the models are a little hyped up on this system. No, they were not. This was a real deal. And I just hope a lot of recoveries could be, a lot of recoveries are already in progress, but hopefully everything will recover in full swing before our next round of rain that you see here. There's a moderate risk for heavy rainfall and flooding again towards the second half of February, and some of the ensembles are going very bullish. In fact, the Euro, or the EPS, the European prediction system, is forecasting maybe as much as 3 to 7 inches of rainfall for the Sacramento Valley in the span of 7 days. Not next week, but the following week. So we got to really see on how the Climate Prediction Center goes about this. But right now, a moderate risk is out again for the West. We'll just probably do it all over again with a threat for heavy snowfall for the Intermountain West there of California. We definitely need the snow. We can use every bit of it. But too much, too quick could lead to a lot of impossible road travel. Yeah, you get the idea. And then when looking at the wind impacts, a slight to maybe a moderate risk for strong winds for California yet again. We're not done, I think. We have a little bit of a hiatus from the storms for next week, but then it could come back in a very, very, very aggressive way yet again with another storm sequence, potentially bringing more renewed flooding, strong winds that could lead to down trees and power lines, more flooding, and more heavy Sierra snow for the higher elevations. So again, just hope and pray that you all are doing fine after the storms that you all have been going through for SoCal and for much of California where I live. Looking at the latest weather alerts, you can see still winter storm warnings for portions of California, flood watches for San Diego and Tijuana. If you are in, say, Montana, you're under a winter weather advisory and a winter storm warning. Also across the Four Corners, avalanche danger as well. Avalanche warnings posted there for northernmost New Mexico, as well as portions of Idaho and Montana. Looking quiet for right now across the Midwest, but again, that storm system for early next week might trigger quite a bit of problems. This active weather pattern does continue. I also wanted to proudly announce that my upcoming hurricane season routine outlooks will begin on June the 1st, 2024. Earlier, if necessary, if we have anything in the preseason or before everything really gets going for June. And my first hurricane seasonal forecast is scheduled for April the 15th, 2024. I am looking forward to tracking hurricane season like I did last year. A lot of you absolutely loved my discussions, and that's why I am preparing more than ever for this year's hurricane season, as this season is expected to be an extremely active season because we have La Nina that is expected to develop, by mid to late summer, and that coinciding with a very warm Atlantic could really make the recipe for a very, very busy season indeed. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed weather forecast, outlook, and discussion for February the 7th on this fantastic Wednesday, please consider subscribing if you're new, hitting the like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media.